I need to be getting more someplace.
Okay, so we got a little bit of a unique circumstance today. We're going to open the council meeting, which I'll call our meeting to order, and we're going to meet in joint session with the commissioners and the building corporation for this first item of business. So Josh and Mike, if you'd like to call your meetings to order.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the May the 11th County Board of Commissioners special meeting to order.
We're going to call the Clinton County Building Corporation to order on May 11th.
Okay. We'll begin, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you'll rise and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So the purpose for the joint meeting here to start out, and we're kind of diverging from our normal agenda and course of action just a little bit, is that we need to make some amendments to some documents related to the infrastructure project that everyone has seen what's going on in the community out to I-65 and State Road 28. We're getting to the point where we're very close to issuing the final bonding, long-term financing for that project. And in order to get all of our ducks in a row, the T's crossed and the I's dotted, we've got to make a couple of changes to some documents. So that requires action of the commissioners, the council, and the building corporation, and so that the professionals that we had that have traveled here today to give us the explanation and the background on the needed actions only had to speak one time. We're meeting jointly for their benefit. So Kostas Poulikitis with Taft Law, if you don't mind walking us through the process here, we'll turn the floor to you.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for taking your time and all coming together. Just as a fact, kind of as a highlight, we all familiar with the project that's going on. You've probably seen this every single day. And in the past, in order to get to this point in front of the project, we essentially issued two sets of bonds, one for the water work and one for the right? So we did that, and now we're at a time where we're going to combine the two and essentially refinance what we the prior bond issue as well. And by refinancing and then combining them into one bond, hopefully we're anticipating getting one that makes it a lot more streamlined in terms of the one payment to make, but also we're anticipating that we also might get a better rate as well. So that's another benefit to everybody. So effectively, that's what we're doing. We're consolidating and then refinancing the project. So that's the most simple way to explain the big picture. The more the details in it is the way that the prior bonds were, and the new bond that was consolidated to is finances through something called a restructure structure, which is very common throughout the country, very common in Indiana. And the benefit of doing that is that it essentially saves on the constitutional debt limit, which basically preserves your ability to issue debt in the future for the project. The way this legal structure works is probably more details than we folks need to know, but it's also the reason why we all together is that technically the way it operates is that the building corporation is the owner of the bonds, so they're the ones in charge of this project, I should say, in charge of this project, so they're responsible for being able to, when it comes time to issue this consolidated bond. They then effectively lease that project to the county. And that's where the two county bodies come in, is they approve that lease, and those lease payments from the county to the building corporation ultimately then go to the bondholders that finance the project. So that might sound more convoluted, but that's essentially the legal structure in a nutshell. And it's also why we've all come together today to do this. So a lot of steps, but it's great that we can all do this in one fell swoop. If there's any questions about it, entertain any of those questions about either the project, bonds, or the process.
That was a great, succinct explanation. Well done. I guess maybe my question would be is what order do these things need to be approved? And if you know that order, if you kind of walk the bodies through who you need to take action first. And
Yeah, since you're all meeting together, the order is going to happen at the same time regardless of how you want to stack it. It's a joint meeting and it's all good. So I guess the question I might throw out to the bodies is, so what I have, this is probably the most complicated thing of the day today, is I have multiple resolutions for each one of you because each body has a different role. And we have those leases that we talked about, the structure, those are amended to accommodate the new structure for the consolidated my question to Alan is, do we just pass them all out to the respective bodies and,
You just have the one copy to,
I have 2 copies of each document.
well, if there's not enough for the entire board, I mean, you can,
I'm sorry.
I was just gonna have you start it with Britt, and we would pass them around to sign once they were approved, so if you don't mind maybe just walking through like the council documents saying you've got two
I-
resolutions.
Yeah.
We
So-
have them listed, we have them up on the screen here that we could, we've had them in our packet, hopefully you all had a chance to review them over the weekend. But
Yes.
maybe if you'd give a high-level summary of what each resolution is, they're basically mirrored documents, one for the sewer project, one for the water project,
They are.
so.
And I wasn't following what you were getting at in terms of process. So, yeah, so on the, for the county council documents, there are 2 ordinances that you should have. Ordinance 2021-8 and 2021-7. One basically amends the water lease, the other one amends the sewer lease that we had before. And that's effectively what it does. It also, I shouldn't go into the detail, it also authorizes the issuance of new bonds, also authorizes the new lease that goes into effect. So it effectively authorizes the entire process and allows the county to move forward and issue bonds to consolidate. So each body, that's also going to be the same for the county commissioners. I'm sorry, for the county council and also for the county commissioners. They have mirroring documents that describe that same process. For the building corporation, a little bit different. They're the ones who are basically saying, we accept those amended resolutions and we give the county the authority to issue the new consolidated bonds. So a little bit shorter, a lot of words, but in the end, that's what the documents say.
You have those 2 on the council agenda, gentlemen, you have those two ordinances by their official lengthy names. Does anybody have any questions about the documents or the process or what we're doing here? Sure.
Just real quick, so one thing, when you see the combined power amount of 22.5 million, we really are, that's the maximums that were set. There were 2, one for water, one for sewer, now they're combined. But really, the estimated bond issue is closer to 17 million.
Right.
And if we can actually get a surety bond, then the bond issue will actually be closer to 16 million. But I didn't want you to, when you see 22 million, it's really not.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because we did that back in 2019 where we put a little extra space in there, not knowing whether there'd be cost overruns or things like that.
We're gonna get the EDA grant at the time.
Yeah, we didn't know about the
So
EDA
that's
grant,
why
right.
it's a little bit higher. And then the other thing, so the lease rental payments are, there's a maximum in there, but those actually get adjusted when we sell the bonds. We're anticipating to sell the bonds in August because we're trying to time it with the EDA funding. And what else was I say? Lease rental dates changed just a little bit because of the flood, so that was the other thing.
Okay, good points. If everybody feels comfortable, we'll start then with the council, and I'd entertain a motion to approve the first of those 2, ordinance number 2021-07.
Make a motion that we pass resolution number 2021-07.
And for the record, I'm sorry, go ahead, Clark.
Second.
Second, okay, for the record, I'll read that lengthy, an ordinance of the Clinton County Council amending ordinance number 2019-14, adopted September 10th, 2019, amending ordinance number 2020-11, adopted October 5th, 2020, authorizing the form and the execution of an amended and restated water lease and related matters, is the official name of that document. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Now we have the same thing for the sewer lease. Do I have a motion for that one?
I'll make a motion to pass 2021-08.
I have a motion by Jake. Second. Second by Mike. Same language, only for the sewer lease and related matters. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That motion carries 7-0. Okay, that should take care of the council then, Costas. If you'd like to get those documents to Britt, we'll start signing.
I will. So just to let everyone know, trying to make it as easy as I have all these nice little sign here spots. But there's essentially, for each of the resolutions, there's 2 sets of each one, so that you guys can have a copy of it.
So it's 4 documents.
So so we're looking for a document, so get your fingers out. How do you want me to handle the document? Is it tight, in terms of?
We'll sign while you go. I'd move on to the commissioners and
Okay. So,
Essentially have the same document, Brian Costa.
yeah, basically the exact same, you have two resolutions, the exact same applies to the thing that I mentioned, and there's two sets of the two resolutions for each of you, and then the they get them signed these amendments.
We'll sign that.
You'll sign those as well?
Okay. Board of Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2021-07, an ordinance of the County Commissioners amending ordinance number. Amending ordinance number 2019-14 adopted September 10th, 2019, and amending ordinance number 2020-11 adopted
some more.
October 5th, 2001, authorizing the form of an execution of an amended and restated water lease for the community. Okay, motion carries 3-0. Ordinance, I'll also entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2021-08, an ordinance of the County Commissioners of Clinton County amending ordinance number 2019-15 adopted September 10th, 2019, authorizing the form and execution of amended and restated sewer lease and related matters. Okay, motion carries 3-0.
Mike, do you need copies of the documents so that you know what to, yeah. Probably need to get the building corp documents there.
So, we need the building corp documents, same thing, one resolution, 2 cents, and then there's some administrative items, I'm sorry, there's a waiver of notice, that, indicating that, you see notice of this meeting, and we don't have an order to publish one, so it's still not gonna be. Put a notice in the paper. And the other one-
Start, yeah, what's the back one?
It was essentially your minutes of this meeting down at the
Commissioners, yeah. Building corporation and commissioners. That's building corporation.
Two
Well,
pages
I
there.
entertain a motion for the Clinton County Building Corporation for resolution number 2021-02,
So we need to sign that one? No, that's for the commissioners and building corporation.
assurance of bonds to outfit principal amount not to exceed 22.5 million, amended and restating certain water and sewer leases and all transaction documents related to it. Also entertain a resolution 2021-02. Same. All in favor? Motion passes 2-0.
Super sign.
Okay. I think we ended up with one of the commissioner documents, didn't we? Yeah. Up here at the table, Costas.
Is that?
There was a one that wasn't ours up here that got in our stack.
Oh, I got you. That's right. Okay, sorry about that. So building corporation, you're the ones who have to do all that. Get your fingers warmed up or something. Release it. So,
Yeah, Lisa's
two of
commissioners.
they
So,
sign usually they release it, release it. Then we get them notarized after. Go.
So does that take care of all of the need for official action?
That's it.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
So Josh and Mike, at this point, if you want to adjourn your meetings, you can, and we'll continue on with our regular meeting.
Entertain a motion to adjourn the 11th, 2011 special commissioners meeting. All right, meeting adjourned.
Okay. Mike, you want to adjourn your meeting?
I entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting of the Clinton County Building Corporation. Passes.
Okay. Thank you guys for working with us and letting us get that all done at one time. Okay, so now we kind of go back to our regularly scheduled council meeting, beginning with the approval of last month's meeting minutes, April 13th, 2021, which you have in your packet.
I reviewed them shortly after Janet sent them out, and I didn't see any corrections.
Okay? Is that a motion to approve?
Yes.
Motion to approve by Clark.
Second.
I have a second by Jeff. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0 to approve the minutes. We've got one administrative cleanup item that we're sticking on in here that's handwritten on my agenda, but that's Alicia. Alicia's here just to kind of make a quick correction to a CF1 that we dealt with last week. So Alicia, if you'd walk us through what you need us to do.
Sure. Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Alicia Alberts, and I work over at the Ryan Law Firm. And I'm here on behalf of Jay, on behalf of Philip Song School. I understand that maybe at your last meeting, someone from our office was here regarding CF1, asking for an amendment to extend it through December 2021. I also understand that if you flip to page 2, in the very, very, very itty font, it says December 31st, 2020. So we are asking if the council would either change that 2020 to a 2021, or we have provided a corrected form that has 2021 in the small font. At your last interaction with us, you approved the concept of 2021. We just have a little error and a typo. That's all we need.
Yeah, and I feel good about clearing this up too. Jeff and I talked about it afterwards, that we had a discussion about more or less having a blanket waiver for 2020. Recall that with the extraordinary circumstances due to COVID, that if a company was not able to make a capital investment, there was no penalty, or we were not saying they were not in compliance or anything like that. But we didn't get that in the minutes. We never made that as a form of a motion. It was just as part of the discussion. So what this would do would be to formalize that by extending that deadline for the investment from the end of 2020 to the end of 2021. And so, do you have a preference on how we do it?
It doesn't make a difference to us as long as it says 2021 on either of the forms. We're happy with it. So whichever is the council's pleasure.
I guess I would suggest that perhaps we make a new page with the correct date on it, and we'll do a signature.
And there is on page 3, that is a new page with the corrected date.
Okay.
So, and it says corrected at the top, so if the council would like to sign that one, that would be perfectly fine with us.
So I think that what we need is a motion to sign the amended CF1 for Phillips On Tool with the correct date.
Would that be a motion for you to sign? or
For me to
the
sign,
president?
yes.
I'll make a motion.
Well, to approve the document
Okay.
and for the president to sign, yes.
Make a motion to approve this corrected document for CF1 for Alan to sign.
Okay, so I've got a motion, I think I had that, Mike. I had a motion by Clark and a second by Mike there. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That motion carries 6-0 with Jeff abstaining. So,
Thank you all.
you want me to just sign this one that I have, or,
That's fine. I've got a copy too if you need to.
well, if you have an official one, or,
I don't know that it's
Let me just,
official, I don't know.
well,
I'm just here for Jay,
Thank you.
so.
Thank you.
yeah, so I want to make sure I signed in the correct one.
Thank you.
How's Jay getting along?
He's doing well.
Is he-
He's at a bank board meeting today, so, but yeah, he's doing well. All vaccinated now and all good.
Well, there's my signature. I'll let you fill in the rest of the data. Do we need to do two?
Could I just have a copy?
You need to attest, and then,
Yeah, I only have one copy with me, but I will want to
You want my copy to sign?
well, I think she can sign it and just literally make
Thank
a
you all
copy.
very much.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
for
much.
coming over. Okay, next on the agenda, new business, resolution 2021-02. That's a resolution authorizing an interfund loan. You know that periodically we need to do this to bridge the time before a tax distribution. This instance, fund in question is the reassessment fund needs a splash of money to get to that final distribution, so I'm not pulling that up here right in front of you. Do you have that handy? What?
The interfund loan should be for the Board of Health.
Oh, did I not, did I read something wrong? This says reassessment fund. Did we-
Okay,
So,
that needs to be.
okay, so we need to make sure that the document before you is not the correct document. It needs to say Board of Health or the Health Fund.
Yeah, I bet she just pulled that up and we
Oh,
need
yeah.
to.
So is the amount correct at 50?
I did do 50.
Well, we didn't need that, but she did that, we certainly appreciate it.
Okay. So the request then is for an interfund loan for the Board of Health, not for the reassessment fund, for $50,000.
Still 2102?
I think everything's the same, but we're
Okay.
gonna,
Okay.
we'll amend this document to read the correct department.
Okay,
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion.
Okay. I have a motion by Jeff, second by Ron to approve the interfund loan in the amount of $50,000 to the Board of Health. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That motion carries 7-0. Commissioner Brewer, if you would, I'll turn the floor to you. We've got an update on the fairgrounds, the grandstand situation and the study. You'll recall, maybe to set the stage, that for the last couple of years, we've put some money in the budget for the rehabilitation of the grandstands, and of course, COVID interfered with that last year, and so Jordan and I have been working with the Fair Council to try to get that process going again, and in the course of doing so, have had to kind of pick up from where things left off all the way back in 2018 or 2019. So Jordan will walk us through kind of where we stand on that.
Good morning, thank you for
Morning.
having me here. So yeah, I'll try and be concise, but also thorough and giving a little bit of explanation here. Alan and I met with the Fair Board President, Matt Kelly, a little over a month ago, had an informal discussion, as last year in budget time, you had approved an amount to do some facility updates. And so we kind of discussed what was going on and the amount of money that was available. Within probably 5 or 6 days after that, the commissioners received, or Britt received and forwarded to the commissioners, some invoices from Structure Point. And we were kind of all a little perplexed, especially with new people on the commissioners and new people on the Fair Board. There was some communication lost over time of what these invoices were for. So did a little bit of research, reached out to Structure Point, and kind of found out that going back all the way to the minutes, the commissioner minutes on February 5th of 2018, the Fair Council had presented to Commissioner Shoemaker and Commissioner Woods, Josh was absent then, a request for $47,850 to have Structure Point do a feasibility and financial assessment of the facility. And up to this point, $19,050 of that has been paid, but we have 2 outstanding invoices for those studies that have been completed and that we now have received from Structure Point. And so I'm here today to request funding for those 2 invoices, one for $12,800, one for $16,000, for the total of the $28,800, and that will basically get us caught up with Structure Point for the work that they've done for a feasibility and a financial analysis. When Alan and I had talked, I was gonna bring all those so you guys could have copies, but one of them's 67 pages and one's 13. Felt like for the sake of paper, that may be a little much, and so Britt was kind enough to put them on, I believe, on the drive for you guys, so you can look through. But they're very thorough, and they kind of encompass everything from what we need to possibly do here currently to possibly in the future some options that would be open to expanding that facility and making it more of a revenue source.
And I did circle back and visit with ex-Commissioner Shoemaker, and it feels like that the miscommunication that happened back in 2018 was that at the time he was of the opinion that there was some money left in a professional services line item that had been expended for another purpose. I don't even know what the purpose was at the time, but that's why they had voted to proceed without having come to the council and asked for that money. They thought there was already money in a budget line item, and it turned out, at least by the time the invoice came, that it had been spent for another purpose. So this has been hanging out there. The Structure Point's been holding on to that report. When Jordan reached out to them and kind of restarted the process again, they were kind enough to go ahead and release it in anticipation of payment so that we could review it. But that's the one that tells all of the upgrades that need to be made to the grandstand to get it up to code. I mean, that was sort of the blueprint for the actions that we wanted to take. So it's kind of a surprise, but on the other hand, it was a pleasant surprise in a way, in the sense that the work's already done. That work's already done. It does put us ahead of the game a little bit in terms of now we know what we need to go to the contractors and get quotes for. So before we can move forward, first domino has to be, we got to take care of that bill, get paid with Structure Point, and get the ball rolling. So the request today is for the council to agree, in a consensus vote to fund that. We would do the additional appropriation for the June meeting to issue the actual funds, and we'd move forward. Yes.
I would just like to comment that I was involved back then with some meetings and with Jamie Blacker, and so I'm not surprised. I knew these were out there. I went through it last night. It's the right steps that we have to take, to invest the taxpayers' money correctly. And it's a bill we owe, so I don't have any problems with.
I think some of it was looking at the invoices. One, they maybe did a presentation in April of 2020, and then one bill was June of 2020, and then November. So that was kind of maybe in the heat of the COVID, in some of those meetings. So I'm sure, and obviously Scott and I'm in that position now, so there was just some change. And even from the documents from the Fair Council, I saw 3 or 4 different names on those. So there's just been maybe a lot of change in positions, and now hopefully we'll have a little more continuity with Alan and I communicating with them and have the ability to kind of get us on the right track going forward with that.
Didn't we set aside some money for the stands?
Yep, there is some in the budget, yeah.
Do you remember how much that was, or what?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because for the last 2 years, we've put $200,000 in the budget for that. What I recalled that we did from the budget last year is knowing we didn't do anything in 2020, I thought we had rolled the 200 into next year and made it 400, because the original project was estimated to be roughly $400,000. But we only show 200 in the budget, so if we were to move forward, we'll have to do an additional appropriation. But in my mind, I already had in the budget 400. It just doesn't, the numbers don't reflect what I thought we had decided, but we've got the money. It's in the landfill fund. Landfill fund's got a very healthy balance in it. The other thing that's a part of this, a corollary to this, as you'll recall, back in 2017, going back even a year prior, we had the dedication for the new hospital, or that ceremony, and there was the big cardboard check from IU Health for $100,000. That's been waiting, because we haven't had a project for them. That was to help with the grandstand renovation. We haven't had a project to move forward, so that's still out there. So in our discussions with the Fair Council people, we've been moving forward on the assumption that we have a pot of $500,000 to work with on that grandstand project. And the project, if you've looked through the study, the recommendation is, rehabilitate the grandstand, get it up to code, put a restroom facility underneath the grandstand, because we took down the old freestanding that was attached to Clinton Hall, so that we've been delinquent in that area, was to put that up and then improve and add some vendor space to really make that more of a revenue producing area. So that project back in the 2018 quotes was $390,000. So we would expect there to be increases in cost now, so we still feel like that $500,000 is probably in the ballpark of where we need to be to answer. So yes, there is money. It's probably not the full amount that's in there. The other thing I told the guys at the Fair Council is that, it's possible this may have to be done in phases. You do the grandstand part, but you do the restrooms next year, or depending on how the cash flow works out.
And the study has it broken down in there as well.
Yeah, I seen that $390,000 for the grandstands.
And it even has it further broken down. The maintenance and upgrade for just the grandstands was $195, concession renovation $45, and then the facility, toilet facility upgrade was $150 for $390 total. And they have communicated that just based on when this study was done to now, that those costs are gonna be higher. Seen that in commodities all across the board, steel, lumber. So I mean, we're gonna have some additional expense, but without, I think we can stay within the confines of the 500,000, or the project will have to be phased in over time. So.
We went back and reviewed the budget on, or this was as of 12/31, but the cash balance in the landfill fund was over 1.3 million. So we're, and we've been having very steady revenues into there. So, I mean, that fund can easily accommodate what we're looking to do there. And it would be my recommendation if we move forward with the payment of when we move forward on the payment of the Structure Point invoices, we go ahead and pull that out of that landfill fund too, just to keep all that fairground stuff together.
Do we need consensus?
I'd like to have a motion on the record to support the payment of the Structure Point invoices, and then we'll catch up with the actual additional next month.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, a motion by Jake, do I have a second? Second by John to approve, from the landfill, to approve the payment of the Structure Point invoices from the landfill tipping fee fund. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Jordan. All right, John, you ready? Clinton County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Kelly had to step upstairs to some official duties up in the courtrooms, so we're gonna have the chief deputy step in his place and walk us through some quotes for some damage that's occurred to the padded cells at the jail.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, start out, I got a couple things here they asked me to go through. So, the first is the padded cells. We have 2 padded cells there at the back end bookend in the jail. Seems like it's been there since the building was built. So, we're starting to get a lot of tears and cracks in it. Our medical nurse and team, says that it could be infectious diseases passed on through that if people are in there and it's not cleaned properly. They try to clean it many times. Basically gotta take all the padding out and replace it. So I have 2 estimates here. One from Indy Wall Padding, which is around, just for one cell, you're looking at $22,950. For all 4, it's $42,000, or for all 2, sorry, it's $42,875. This gentleman down here in Indianapolis has been by several times to speak with us and show us the difference in the padding, and how to repair it. He is also, if there's any problems after it's done, he will come back and take care of that. This other is based out of Florida. They have never been up to our place, but they sent an estimate to both for around $59,775. Don't know too much about them.
You said the first one was in Indiana?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of Indianapolis.
Okay, yeah, we had those in our packet, yeah.
Yeah. Is that a repair or?
No, it's replacing the whole pad, top, ceiling, bottom.
Sheriff Kelly indicated to me that those were the original from 1994. So,
It's been repaired, I know a couple of times.
Yeah, repairs, probably been repaired, but not replaced.
Right.
well, in a rather fortuitous timing event, we did get notified this past week of a special distribution of income tax monies from the state that included monies to the Public Safety Fund in excess of $100,000. So that might be an excellent use to take care of a couple of unexpected repairs. It's the commissioner's choice as to which option you would take, but my assumption would be you'd go with the local company that was the low bid. So I think we might be safe in saying that we could approve that number of what, Sean, it was 42,875. Did I write that down right?
Yes, I think it was. Yeah, 42,875.
Okay.
Indy wall padding.
It's a place called Indy Wall Padding.
That's for both.
We meet on
Okay.
Tuesday.
Well, I didn't wanna do the lower one, and for whatever reason, you thought the other one was worth the money, but,
There's actually three of them in here. It looks like Indy Wall Padding, Marathon Engineering Corporation, and Real Time Furniture. The one that was 59 was in Noblesville. But still, the Indy Wall Padding was the cheapest of the three.
Yeah.
It sounded like he would come back. Does
Yeah,
it come
he-
with some written?
Yeah, there's written, as far as I know, he told us if there was any, he offered a 3-year warranty on the type thing, so. So we
I make a motion to approve the funding for the 42,875
okay.
amount.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by John and a second by Ron to approve $42,875 for the replacement of the padding in 2 padded cells. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. I think you had one other item.
also, so our walk-in cooler there, so I'm just gonna read what we have here. So, the fan blade on the freezer cooling unit broke. It got stuck between the motor and the coil, so it burned up the motor in the process. We've had it repaired, but when this happened, it also damaged the cooling coil. So, which is beyond repair. They try to find a fix for it. They can't because this cooler's outdated. When the outdoor temperatures start going up, we do not think there'll be enough air movement through there to allow it to cool off. So it hadn't started heating up yet, so like we're good right now. There was a quote done, one quote done, which is about $10,794 in EPH. I have pictures here for you. And you'll see on the damage.
Owning an old building is no fun. Oh my gosh. That's a humdinger. I just thought of one other thing. If you guys are all okay with this by consensus, I'd like to add to that previous motion that we were gonna pay for it out of the public safety
Yes,
fund.
okay.
So would you make sure the minutes reflect that, Britt, on that motion? Yes, out of the public safety lit fund. I think we could do the same thing on this one, should the council see fit.
I don't think we have any choice.
I don't either.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Clark and a second by Mike to approve funding from the public safety lit for the 10,700 and whatever that number was, to replace the coils on the freezer.
10794.
794.
Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. All right.
One more thing.
Oh, you're killing me.
There was a request to purchase flour and mulch from the commissary fund for approximately $300. Could be less, but I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, and this goes back to that issue last month about anything that wasn't one of the statutorily listed expenses that needed to be approved by the council as well. So I'd entertain a motion to approve that flowers and mulch. Okay, have a motion by Jay, second by Mike to approve the purchase of flowers and mulch for $300 from the commissary fund. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 7-0. Great, thank you.
Who made the motion for the monies to be paid out of the lit? Was that Clark? or
Clark.
Mike?
It's Clark and Mike.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, additional appropriations. Yes. Oh, did I? I'm sorry.
Purchase of
Another real estate, a resolution for real estate purchase.
Oh, yeah, I checked the wrong box here on that. I'm sorry. Yeah, we did have one other resolution. Resolution 2021-03, a resolution of the county council documenting interest in the purchase of real properties. So, Tom, yeah, I'm sorry about that.
That's okay, no problem. So, this is just something for the council, and it's more of a notice that you're aware of that shows that you're interested in a purchase or potential purchase of real estate. It doesn't bind you by any means and to a purchase itself. It's just to say that, hey, still in the process currently of obtaining appraisals, and so we can get to a final price or an estimate of what we're gonna pay for it, or what we could pay for it if we decided to move forward. But this is for the State Board of Accounts, when they come in and do an audit for any type of real estate purchase, there are certain things that they do require. And with the appraisals, they want this being one of them, and so this is just kind of a, let's do this now, just in case we get to that point and forget about it, we're protected from that standpoint.
Do we know when the third appraisal is expected?
Yeah, so he came, I walked through the building with him on Friday, and he should have something back to me the next week or two.
Okay.
So it should be a fairly quick turnaround, and I know that Dr. Ross, who owns the building, has put a deadline at the end of May. So trying to get it turned around as quickly as possible.
If you'll recall, we had quite a discrepancy between the appraiser that we selected and the appraiser Dr. Ross selected, and so this is an attempt to try to bridge that.
What were those
Yeah.
two amounts, just for review?
580 and 300,000.
Okay.
And this one is an appraiser, this appraiser that we used was the same appraiser that we used to do the skating rink. And also, he was one that was suggested by Dr. Ross. So it's one of the situations when the estimate comes back, it's going to be good because he'll know exactly who we used and was okay with the selection of, this guy's name's Roger Miller.
Okay.
So if it came in at 300,000,
Right.
is there consensus among the, where do you guys?
We're pretty much limited right now, we can't go any 440 statutorily, so we're looking for, not quite, that doesn't quite get us to where Dr. Ross wants to be. We'll move off the 580, but we're just not close enough yet, so. Right now, we don't have the right cards in our hand.
And I know Brett Barton has money too, but regardless, even if he uses this money, that's still governmental money, and it still has to be underneath the limit of the average of the two, so we're kind of stuck where we are. That was the reason of getting the third appraisal, plus the difference of the two has a huge difference, it's almost double, and that's kind of strange, so getting a third one will help solidify what those other two were, and hopefully be able to move forward.
The need to do this now then was, we could do this later after knowing all those numbers, but it would require a special meeting and, because of of trying to maybe get this done by the end of May. So this was more of a proactive step to check a box off the list that could be, that could facilitate the process later. As Tom said, it's not committing us to anything right now.
You say 440 limits, what's the limit? I mean, why are we limited?
That's the average.
Average of the two.
300.
Oh, the average, okay.
You can only go 140.
I see.
Yes, that's correct. So what's the council's pleasure?
Well, I think
Well,
we'll
just to-
check that box.
Yeah, yeah.
We're still gonna be informed, I assume.
Absolutely.
And,
Well,
this
because
is-
you have to be a part of the purchase, both governmental laws,
Right.
fiscal, and the commissioners have to be a part of the
Yeah,
approving the actual
but
purchase.
no need of messing up and maybe causing a delay later on.
Correct.
So I would make a motion to approve, resolution, 2021-03.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Clark and a second by Jeff. Any other questions or clarifications? Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. The motion carries 7-0. Great. Thank you, Tom, for getting that drafted. And I'm sorry that I skipped over that. Not intentional.
There's a lot of stuff
A
on it.
lot of stuff on that agenda page today. Okay, now we're ready for additional appropriations.
Can we go sign this? Pass it.
Okay, two items from the general fund. The first, $35,000 from our, you'll recall last year we ended up with $1 million on the CARES Act. We want to use $35,000 of that balance. We really haven't spent a tremendous amount of that money, probably a quarter of it. But Rodney and his staff have incurred a lot of overtime during this health crisis, and we need to get them caught up. They were gracious enough to take some of it in personal time, but there are limits to how far that can be utilized as a program, so we need to get caught up on the actual dollars that we owe them. And so this is a request for $35,000 to get caught up on the overtime for the health department staff. And then the next one is the actual formal appropriation of the funding for the tents that we discussed last month, that Daryl Sanders walked us through, $31,268.20. Bear with me, let me do a signature here real quick. Okay. So that's a total out of county general then of $66,268.20 that would be out of that $1 million of CARES Act money from last year. Parkview Home, again, an issue that we discussed last month in concept, and that is for the fire alarm upgrade, $35,231. We discussed that last month, and this is the appropriation of that money from the CUME CAP fund. We didn't, and I guess I'll elaborate real quickly, when we had that discussion last month, we did not really identify the funding source, and so when we had to advertise, Britt reached out to me, we did a quick review of fund balances and all, and so I'm suggesting or putting it to the council's consideration that we take it out of the CUME CAP fund, which we had a nice cash balance in. It did seem appropriate as a capital project. Next is from the surveyor's office, the drainage maintenance fund, $342.95. So we have one overall, all-encompassing drain maintenance fund. And I'm not sure, maybe the drainage board can elaborate on this. I don't even know if you know what we're doing here, but we got $342 that we're splitting out amongst all of the respective drains so we're spending, we're splitting it out 95 cents at a time.
Those are for 811 load gates.
Okay.
So when we're part of the 811 utility, so whenever a load gate calls in, we're notified of that. We have to check to see if we have any regulated drains in the area. And those cost 95 cents each, so we fill those tables directly out of each watershed that they are.
Okay. So anyway, that's distributing that $342.95 to each of the respective drains, and you see that list for that distribution. Veterans Monument Fund, $500 to pay for some new paver bricks. Joe's got a pot of money set aside from donations, and you can see over to the side that still has $11,000 left after this appropriation. From the surveyor's user fee funds, we have two requests, one for a drone of $1549 and another for, I think, Zach, the drone deploy would be the software that runs and supports the drone. Yeah. Is that for a second drone or a new drone to replace?
That is a new drone. There was a failure of the old one. It took a fall, so we did have to get a new one to replace that.
Okay.
Go back up and running.
Okay.
It's not repairable, I saw it.
Okay.
We need to pay for some classes for the operator.
Let's not meet us.
The question we had was whether or not they had to be drug tested.
Okay, from Community Corrections, the Project Income Fund, $260.22. That's again some money we've collected through the TREX program. Always enjoy putting that back into a line item.
Yes.
Central Dispatch, $200. We received some donations to provide meals for the dispatchers during National Telecommunicator Week. So we're going to take that donation and appropriate to the meals and lodging line item. From the Health Department, from some coronavirus funds that they have, $100. Well, we received a donation for lunches at the COVID clinic, and we're putting it into that coronavirus fund line item to help support those workers out there. I think, is that it? Okay. So that is the slate of additional appropriations for ordinance number 2021-06. Entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Jeff, a second by Jake. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. We'll note that Ron abstained on that one, or was stepped out of the room. We do have a couple of transfers for approval. The first one for $4,620 is the conclusion of a long saga that goes back, you'll recall, over the many months ago, we had made a decision to move forward with an effort to engage ADP to do payroll services for the county. And subsequently discovered as we moved through that process that their software just wasn't quite ready to deal with county government. It couldn't meet some statutory requirements that state law required us to be able to do, and it just wasn't going to work. In the meantime, they had put some time and effort into doing the work that they had done to get us just to the point that we were at the time, and so they submitted us an invoice for the time and work that they had put in. I know the commissioners and Tom worked hard on negotiating that down, and there was an eventual agreement for a settlement amount of the $4,620 that we're paying them for the work that they did put in during their brief time working with the county. The money that's being transferred from is the line item in the council budget that was money that's listed as the debt service payments for 2021, but as of yet, we really haven't had any, and so we know we're going to have plenty of money left in that line item. So that was where Britt chose to take this money out of. Doesn't really match, but it's a place where some money was available that didn't require an additional appropriation. So this would be a transfer of $4,620 from the debt service payment line item to settlement for services.
Kudos to the commissioners for negotiating that. I was really impressed.
Yeah, that was a very nice outcome.
Yeah.
He put on his mean lawyer voice. And then from the health department, $1,303.60 from COVID services to supplies, and $365.64 from service contracts to supplies. If I understand this right, Rodney, by moving it to that supply item to get some more vaccines, that becomes reimbursable then. Is that correct? That's how this reads here.
Well, what we're doing is probably within the same fund, moving money out of one line item up to get, we burn through consumables every week, run that money. Not the vaccine, but it's things like Band-Aids, sharps containers, those type of things that we're going to do regularly.
Okay.
If I'm thinking what you're looking at, then it would be us to move money out of what was just for extra services at one time, which in our case was crazy ideas of running Saturdays, weekends, Sundays, and things, so there's some of that money to cover
Okay.
those expenses.
Great. So oh, I'm sorry, there is one more page, and that is for $1,000 from extra assistant to COVID supplies. So that would be your slate of transfers that require approval.
Motion to approve?
A motion by Jeff to approve those transfers, second by Mike. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. Okay. Next item. Yeah.
Was a time clock part of this ADP deal, or was that separate?
I'm sorry?
The time clocks.
It was all together,
Originally.
and now we have a new company.
So we backed off the payroll part of it, but we did move forward with the new time clock system,
But not with ADP.
but not with ADP.
Is that in
right?
place now, or is that?
It's just about in place to, we had to take a breather so that we could implement our property tax software, and that conversion has gone very well. So the conversion to the time clock will be next, and it should be in the next few weeks.
Next item quickly would be just to acknowledge that we had received the monthly financial statement for review.
I've reviewed it.
I did too.
Did too.
Me too.
Well, let's make a motion that we've
I'll
received.
make a
and
motion that we
reviewed.
have received it.
Okay, motion that we've received
That reviewed.
the April financial statement from the auditor. So I have a motion from Jeff, second from Mike. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0. Any council reports?
Did we miss the juvenile detention cost review.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, that's because mine have a note written over the top of it. You're right. But we did, so, yeah, in the packet, there's a,
I just want to make sure we
yeah,
reviewed
let's
it.
acknowledge that we did receive from Nancy the juvenile detention costs.
0 for April. so.
0 for April, we like that. So we're having an excellent year on juvenile detention costs so far.
Yeah, the summer's not here yet.
That's true.
Ed sent an email out to us, and they did get a quote from AAA for the drain for $6,500. So they're up to $34,900 on that project right now.
Okay. Okay. Appreciate that update. Any other council reports? Anything at solid waste going on? Okay. Commissioner reports. We've probably covered anything that we had. Do you? Okay, great.
So just to, Tom touched on it briefly, a little bit ago, we were talking about the gentleman who, Roger Miller, and we had used him to appraise the skating rink. And just to bring you guys up to speed on that, we've been talking to Mrs. Baber, who runs the skating rink. She has been operating that under a lease from the county for longer than I've been involved. She can't find the lease. I don't think we can find the lease. I know we've looked for it, Tom's looked for it. And so anyway, long story short, she wants to make improvements to the facility, but she doesn't want to make improvements to the facility if she does not own the property. So we had it appraised. We had two, I think statutorily we have to have two, maybe three, I can't remember, but they all came back at $30,000 for the facility. So we had tentatively reached an agreement with her to sell the property to her for $30,000. But while we were doing that, I failed to remember that we can't dispose of property as a board of commissioners by ourselves, so we have to also have to have your guys' input. So it's a little convoluted because I think she owns the building but didn't own the land around it, or vice versa. I can't remember.
We own the property.
Yeah, so the $30,000 isn't actually for the building, it's for the property around it. She still didn't wanna do anything locked in like that, so it was our desire that we went ahead and voted unanimously to make the sale to her and just get it off, our ownership, get it on the tax roll. Improvements that she wants to make, so I was hoping Tom had to leave, obviously I think he must have had court or something, so. I'm just kind of giving you an update, so that'll be something probably next month.
Okay.
I need to take care of that. So anyway,
That sounds like a no-brainer.
Is that property in conjunction with the Humane Society down there too? Is that, who owns that property?
it is
Humane Society?
well, it's, so there's the Hoosier Land Roller Rink, or the county owns the land around that. And there's the Frankfurt J.C.'s, and I believe at some time or another that land was donated to them from the county, and then it jumps over and we own the
Humane Society.
Right, and it all used to be part of the county farm, because right immediately adjacent to that, we owned what was more commonly known as the back nine of the golf course, or what originally was 70-some acres of county farmland. That's why we own, historically speaking, that's why all that property is under county ownership. As you all know, we got rid of we don't own the back nine anymore. The city of Frankfurt, so long as it's used for the purpose of being a golf course. So it just kind of just rolls into that. The way I look at it, the more property we don't own, hopefully somebody will own and pay tax on.
That's right.
So that's, you guys got-
Is any way in that, as far as that property is, like, kind of like that back nine, that we could?
We did agree to a right of first refusal.
Yeah.
If she ever wanted to sell, we got first dibs at it, so that would be part of the purchase agreement. That's it about the skating.
Okay.
We did go ahead at our last meeting and create the fund for the ARP money, which Britt over, she knows all the Dunn's number and Sam's number. And talked to her a little bit this morning. talked to Baker Tilly about guiding us through that.
Right.
She hasn't talked to them yet, so I thought maybe I'll reach out to them
Okay.
and remind them to get a hold of Brett, because we've done our part. Still need to come up with a plan. We talked about that at, I think, the last meeting.
Yeah.
So we're still.
Well, we had said we were waiting on that treasury guidance that
Right.
you and I discussed came out yesterday, so we need to review that and probably get together as a group.
So, we did go ahead and employ Henshaw Roofing to replace the roof on the courthouse just as quickly as they can. I know, I'm sure it leaked over the weekend. We had nice heavy rain with an easterly wind, which is a disaster for the courthouse. So, just, they promised me we would have it done this year, so it should be, the timeline with that, the roof should be completed before any remodel work on the third floor is completed, which, by the way, also we went ahead and engaged Structure One to get the ball rolling on that. So they are coming Friday to meet with the judges to discuss interior finishes, and carpet, and
Okay.
all that good stuff. And then outside of that, with the Regions building and all of our facilities, we did go ahead and employ RQAW at our last commissioners meeting to complete the facilities assessment study. So that was broken down into Regions was by itself, and then the jail. It's just the jail, and just Regions. So
Okay.
that's all kind of in limbo. This month's going to be an important month, whether we can reach an agreement with Dr. Ross. You know, if we can't, then we're going to pull back on that.
Yeah.
Ask for. Their RQAW has been really good with this, so unforeseen problems. That's it. I can't think of anything else.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks, Josh. Department head reports. Got several in the room. Anybody need to have some time with the council?
Like for some time to my chief food specialist to discuss the matter with the council.
Okay.
Hi.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah, sorry for my unexpected interjection here.
I just sent it.
I would like to request changing the label on one of our seasonal permits from the 90-day to a 6-month
Yeah, I think so.
seasonal. I looked over the last 5 years that this particular fee schedule has been in place, and we've only had issued 9 90-day permit fees. 4 of those were for nonprofit entities that are operating concession stands, and then one of them each year is for Broadview Campground Acres, which actually when I put that in place, I didn't know that that location existed. So I fudged the dates on that fee for them and allowed them to operate from May to October under that 90-day seasonal permit fee.
Okay.
I've already had 3 different vendors inquire about a longer seasonal permit, and that's specifically in regards to our county schedule changing. We now have events that start in May, and we also have events in October. So this might entice some more vendors to come in and operate in the county for longer periods of time. So I'm not proposing any change in the fee. I just want to change the duration of the permit, and I'm prepared to answer any questions that you guys may have on that.
That doesn't require any action on our part, does it?
No, I don't think so,
Okay,
but
yeah.
I felt like it was appropriate to
No,
tell you
okay.
guys anyway.
Understood.
We weren't sure though if it required action on the part of
On
the
the
commissioners
commissioners, I'm glad
since
that
it's a
you guys
fee
are
ordinance.
Yeah.
So
And also, this hasn't been approved by our board yet. When's our
May,
it's next
third
Tuesday,
week,
right?
yeah, Tuesday.
So it isn't until next Tuesday, so I'm hoping to get okays by you guys first, so that if I get an okay by our board, I can just enact it immediately. Because like I said, I've already got some vendors who are inquiring about a longer seasonal permit.
Do
And
you have a
The
proposed,
90-day one just isn't as relevant as it was when I first put it in place.
do you have a proposed length, 120 days?
From May 1st to
May-
October 31st.
Okay, okay.
So then, the 30-day and the 90-day, those are gone then? It's just
Oh,
gonna
no,
be?
no, no.
Oh,
So
those
the
are, everything is still
30-day
there?
stays.
Okay,
30-day
they're still
stays.
there.
That's actually a very popular
Okay,
one.
okay.
because most of our events are actually in July. You know, we've got 4th of July, Hot Dog Festival, and the county fair, so we've got a lot of vendors who purchase the 30-day. But not many people want the 90-day, and like I said, I've already got people asking if we can get an extended seasonal permit, so I figured the fastest way to do that would just be to get rid of the 90-day and replace it with a 6-month.
Well, I think in the interest of clarity and transparency, I'd entertain a motion that the council would support the concept of moving from the 90-day seasonal event to the May to October seasonal event structure.
I'll make that motion.
Second. I have a motion by Jake and a second by Jeff. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 6-0.
And then if you don't mind, like, can I get an informal, because it's a county ordinance and that's something that needs to be approved by the commissioners, can I get an informal okay until I can present this to you guys?
I'm happy with it, yeah, same here.
Okay.
We'll make it official, we also do Tuesdays.
Okay.
Take care of it.
All right, anything else?
Thank you for the update.
Thank you, Jessica.
Anything else from the health department?
Quick, good. At least to update you gentlemen on what's going on, obviously, monetarily, first and foremost, my thanks to Britt, who continuously work with us. With COVID and everything going on, I could have probably told you in January, had I known that my $85,005 was the all amount that I was gonna have cash on hand, I could have immediately mentioned to you we were gonna fall short. So my thanks to her for at least enacting that loan immediately. From my standpoint, obviously managerially wise, we're looking at everything. I think I sent you some notes on that I want to sit with you and Britt. I probably have a few more years in manage this. I've been doing so since 2015. I'd like to have a little bit more of a formula for my folks that are falling behind me to understand, so that I can ensure that that management continues in the future as to understanding how the health department budget works. We also have recently gotten a $9,700 grant that we received for mass vaccinations, doing some on the weekends, Saturdays, with additional money sent down. So we had sent Britt that paperwork, and we'll shortly be able then to bill the state. Actually, I think I did bill the state. We're just waiting to receive that money in. That's all part of that 8112 that you were transferring
Okay.
money around within. That money, that grant was initially the testing grant, which almost a year, not quite a year ago, probably September of last year, we received $100,000 to provide testing for the community, as well as what was already going on here at LHI. We curtailed LHI along with the state in March, but we still have testing going on 5 days a week there, Monday through Friday, noon to 6. So we're still seeing a reasonable amount of numbers going through. The state has sent an offer for another $50,000 to continue testing on into the end of December. I have signed the paperwork with our intent to continue to provide that as well. I met with the Fair Board in their meeting in May to confirm with them that we should be out of the 4-H building in third week or end of May, roughly, to turn that back over to normal services for them. That leaves us a month short of the contract that we paid, but still, I think it's in the best interest of the community to get some of that normality back into what activities are going on in the community. Allows us to start planning for fair events and things of that nature. We are also looking to move the testing and the health department vaccination into the health department temporarily. My belief is that Daryl and my logistics chief, Joanne, have been working, tracking the trailer. I believe it should be delivered this week, is what Daryl said. He already has been working with Matt Stidham to do a training for those involved with moving and operating that trailer. We are already working with school corporation superintendents to start planning a next phase. 12 to 15-year-olds for Pfizer was approved yesterday, so that means there's a wider group of individuals that are now eligible for the vaccine. We're not sure how many there will be, but we are ramping up to have multiple
None from me. Anybody? Great job as always.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rodney.
Thank you, Rodney.
One not to forget.
Oh, yeah. Any other?
It wouldn't be a bad idea to
Yeah,
check.
please.
I just checked on it.
Okay.
All right, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
No, you're right, yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
Any other department heads? Liz?
A couple things. First off, in the spirit of trying to keep both county council and commissioners somewhat apprised as far as where we are with the Colfax to Frankfurt project, I'm gonna try to do periodic updates as we're working our way through that study. Of course, Alan and Jordan are already in the loop on this, but BFNS has been selected to be the engineering firm to help partner with us as we look at that. And they actually came out yesterday, we met for 4 hours and drove through the area, looked at challenges, opportunities, items that needed examination, alternates, for alignment, those kinds of things. Took a first look in some detail. So they're going to their drawing board, and then I'm following up with some things on my end, I've had my first few meetings with NDOT, so seeing what kind of partnership they're gonna bring to the table. They've already committed roughly $120,000 as a partner to the potential project as match, and they may increase that number on the State Road 28 project where it interfaces and going over 52. So that's just the under 65 contribution, so we'll see where that ends up. And then playing a little bit of phone tag with Duke. I think I've got somebody who I've worked with before who specializes in Duke's community-facing side, grants and partnerships, intending to ask them as well if they would come to the table, since their lines interact repetitively with that corridor. And they need to be at the table either way, but it would be awesome if they saw some value in partnering, not just communicating. So I'll try to give short updates, each month, just so you kind of know where that's at. That's what I have for the moment. And then the other item, Alan and I had spoken about this. This relates to GIS. And to give you a little bit of context, so the GIS system, that's most simply, you guys most do see it in Beacon, but it's the mapping. And right now, and actually since about, 2006, 2007, Zach does half of it and I do half of it. He actually handles the front of Beacon, I've handled the front for 911, and then we have the layers that you guys see when you go to Beacon are split between us. One of the challenges with that, it's come up from time to time, is we don't have a shared server, primarily because of the cost of that item. So my files have to stay on the hard drive. Zach uses the server here in the courthouse, but it's not a GIS server, it's just a storage place for files. And then we have to manually move stuff back and forth, which means each of us is always behind in half of the data that we're working off of at any given point in time. And usually when that becomes urgent for some reason, each other are gonna go, hey, can you send an update to that layer? The layer files are large, it's cumbersome to move things back and forth. And then when we deal with things like map updates, that almost gets prohibitive. We have to physically carry that back and forth on drives. The topic that's kind of come up again is the idea of a GIS server and the possibility of that maybe being one use for some of the funding that's coming in. We know, moving forward, since I've come in as director with Area Plan, it's very, very hard, to keep the GIS updated and handle other duties. I end up putting in a lot of unpaid hours trying to juggle things. As time moves forward, Zach may find himself increasingly in that position as well. And every little bit that we can get back in terms of our ability to perform efficiently is important. And hopefully someday, maybe we'll be able to budget or find a way to hire another GIS tech and distribute some of those duties we're holding so that we can more effectively serve in other areas. All of that have a server. So there's one set of data. The biggest thing it means is you have one set of data, and if, say, Zach makes a change to something, the server A blocks me from simultaneously making an opposing change, creating confusion, and B, it instantly updates his change to me and anyone else who's sharing that server. as soon as he makes it, so there's not a lag between us. This is not something that needs a decision today, we've just been asked to bring some information, so Zach and I met with Tim. Tim was great, reaching out to Esri on the server side, because neither Zach nor I are very good at servers, probably should keep us in a separate room. But, so, the estimate that we got from Esri, for the server, we're looking at $27,900. That's, includes two things. One, that's the license for the server for ArcGIS. But two, currently Zach and I are running off of desktop versions on our computers that are not able to communicate with the server. They're the cheaper, lower level. So we actually have to update our software as well in order to have that communication work. That's a one-time output, and then additionally, you're gonna have about another $1,000 for operating system and stuff is what Tim was estimating. And then the other part of this that is relevant is, we asked some questions, so you may not all be familiar with Esri, but the way they basically work, at least in terms of how we've always handled our licensing, is we've purchased our software, our product up front, and then we pay a yearly maintenance fee, which is a lower amount that entitles us to upgrades to the software as they occur, support, those kinds of things. So currently, we probably, between Central Dispatch and Zach and I'm just guessing ballpark, we're paying about $2,500 maybe in support fees yearly. After upgrading to server, we're gonna be looking at about $7,000 a year. So that is gonna make an increase in the support fee for those software packages. There's different ways it could be structured, but I think our initial thought was that the server stuff, even though it all gets billed through Zach and I, the server stuff should probably come out of IT's budget. And then the individual licenses for the desktops should continue to have their continuing maintenance paid out of the individual department budgets, because if you change staff or something like that, it enables you to add or decrease licenses pretty efficiently. And what we usually do is we get those bills, and then either Zach or I, whoever gets it first, we just circle the relevant numbers and send it to the other departments, and everything gets paid. But, to sum that up, you're looking at looking at roughly $30,000 for getting the server and everything set up so it all works smoothly and we have that communication. That's a one-time output. And then you'd be looking at an increase of roughly, I've done my math right, $3,500 a year in yearly maintenance fees. The trade-off would be both in the immediate term and long term. If staff's added or there's changes in departments, our data's in one location. It's secure, it can't be lost if somebody's desktop goes down, and it can be shared between any and all entities that need to access it. I think, unless you have questions, Zach and Tim are both here too. You should have something that is more them than me.
Tim, would that just be upstairs in the server room, an added module, or?
Basically just an addition to what we already run for the infrastructure. So basically, we're just paying for an OS license, barring that we don't have to add any more storage space for the additional data for the GIS server. We've got some room, so I think we're just at an OS purchase.
Okay, good.
Would this also impact, besides area plan and surveyor's office, does this impact like 911 and sheriff's EMS?
So,
Because they use some of this kind of stuff, don't they?
so yes, they do, and the answer is yes and no, confusing as that is. So the server side, they actually updated to an Esri server over in Central Dispatch this year, earlier this year.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah, so the challenge there was, we actually looked at if we could share, because this has, of course, been a challenge for quite a few years, but there were a couple problems with that. One, they're under a license that's discounted because of what they're doing, severely discounted.
I think their server came in at about 60.
Yeah, so as opposed to 30, and that comes with limitations. And then secondly, they have two different vendors doing something very specific on that server. And there was some concern, basically we were told by both of those, is if we tried to add in sharing that server, and there was any kind of support problem for 911 where their mapping and their phone calls weren't working correctly with the maps, that we would end up getting bounced between entities, each blaming the other and ultimately blaming us for screwing up the server, even if it wasn't our fault, because of that sharing.
Yeah.
So basically, we decided that it wasn't worth the risk to 911's integrity to try to share that server or to create problems with support, quick, efficient support when there's a 911 problem. Where it will help is, on my side, packaging data updates for the maps. That's a pretty arduous process, to put it simply. And if we have a server, it will allow us to streamline that process a little bit and have a quicker way of moving data across, because we'll already be dealing in a server environment and things will have similar file types. There'll be ways to organize that so that that can be more efficient and third-party vendors can pull information more quickly. So there may be a benefit on the, how we get it from my computer to Central Dispatch's modules. We foresee a benefit there, but we can't share the same server, unfortunately. It would be nice, but.
Good question, then.
Would this server, between you and Zach, save you man hours?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so we're looking at, this kind of investment to some degree or another is gonna offset a part of a new employee or something like that.
I don't know.
I don't know how to put it in words.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd go that far, only because I can't speak for Zach, but for me, I work anywhere from 4 to 9 hours for free for the county weekly. So, it's, I mean, in all honesty, it has a benefit in terms of man hours. But the other part of that is, I can't speak for Zach, but I know for me, I have a list of items, it's probably an inch tall, that are things that if we could do with the GIS, it would benefit us. It would give us additional functionality, it would give us more information at our fingertips, it would save staff time, and get to them around the duties that I have. And, both Zach and I work really hard just to keep the basic stuff that has to flow flowing. Eventually, we're gonna have to make a GIS hire. I mean, that's just, or make another hire and bump one of us to GIS. I mean, I don't know, but there's gonna have to be, there's just more work, and we're moving into a more digital age, not a less digital age. So even things like the drone flights that are done, that can all be integrated for quick reference instead of having to go search through individual file names looking for what you're looking for. But that's probably 2 to 3 weeks of programming, for one of us.
This won't
too.
necessarily help get the list of things that we could use GIS for done any quicker. Like you said, an additional hire would be nice sometime in the future. But it'll make us more efficient with what we're doing now and sharing information back and forth and making sure everybody's up to date.
It also lays the groundwork for additional people, because we used to have McPittman, if you remember, over in the sheriff's in the early days of GIS, so we actually had 3 different places. It was impossible to keep data updated between 3 people. It was just complete chaos. He updated the roads layer for the county, I had the address layer, Zach had the parcel layer, and we were all always lost. So I think as soon as you add another person, it's gonna return to that kind of chaos, and this lays the framework for keeping that all. Data integrity is important. You don't want your data to be confused or out of date.
So you had said earlier that this was more for information and not, I guess what would the next step be, or what do you need us to give a kind of a consensus that we view this as worthwhile and we want to support it, or do?
Yeah, I mean, this is an expenditure none of us have the ability to make within our current budget, so, you had asked us to gather information to bring it to you, so I don't think any of us are trying to put pressure on a decision, but, we would be ecstatic if council was willing to move forward on it at whatever pace you were comfortable with, whether that meant today or whether that meant at a future meeting.
Or through the budget process.
Yes, but we can, all 3 of us can move forward on implementing this at any point.
Okay.
There's the funding there.
I just wanted to be clear.
We
when
appreciate your willingness to let us look into it.
When Liz first brought it to my attention, I think I see a lot of value in it, and I expressed that individually. I obviously was not trying to speak for the council, but I feel like this is something that would be a good investment, expense,
I think it's a good discussion for budget time.
And I think that was maybe what we originally said, is let's start being prepped now so that when it came time for the budget, that we could put it in there. Having said that, if the money that we were gonna spend out of that budget is already available, and one could make the point, why give up 6 months worth of time when you could be getting a return on that investment just for the sake of going through the budget process to get to the same point. So,
excuse me, Tim, so this money, when I hear the word servers, this is not hardware? These are licenses or this is operating?
Basically, the server side is more software-based, so it's just a hub for everybody to talk to. In the old day, yeah, it would have been actually a physical box, everything would have been all separate, but with the way technology works today, it's basically just spinning up another virtual environment for their software to live in its own area and give them functionality that they can't share data right now. So it's more software-based than actual physical hardware.
Okay.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, when Liz starts the conversation, I'm just thinking, just go up this stinking someplace and buy a Dell or something.
I've kind of gone from, my opinion has morphed from originally thinking, let's do this during the budget process, to thinking, let's just, I'd like to get it in place and start accumulating the benefits of it. We have the money to pay for it. And does anybody feel strongly to wait for the budget process? I mean, I guess, do you all feel like it's a worthwhile investment?
Well, I might want to see it all in writing. In other words, all the projections, rather than having a verbal
And
presentation.
I have the quotes all, the only thing that's, I don't know, it might be in here in writing, I would say the continuing, may not have included in this, but I wrote it on the front. And Schneiderwood has a question mark. Zach was able to determine they will not be making a charge when we convert to server. They'll be able to make the conversion with us seamlessly.
The 1,000 for OS, that was for your
Operating
computers,
system,
well,
yeah,
for
you
your
might wanna-
computers, but that was for your workstations?
No, that's for the server's OS. There has
Oh,
to be
the
a Windows,
server's
a
OS, okay.
Microsoft. Yeah, sorry.
I
OS
guess
is
what I was
operating
referring to
system.
is maybe a comprehensive, proposal,
I can
in
type up
writing.
a page with
Yeah,
everything
something
on
we
one
could-
page.
You know, sit and.
Well, what
contemplate.
I guess I'd like to do, Clark, if it would work with what your request is, would be for us to give a consensus that we would support moving forward with this. They can work then on the numbers that would be part of that proposal, and we could then go ahead and have advertised for additional appropriation in June, a number that if the information you get is satisfactory, we would feel like we could vote on and make it official.
I would go for that.
Okay?
Is there any additional fees or anything that could be coming from this kind of knowledge, or?
The surveyor's office charges for, I know, copies of things, but Beacon is free for people to use. I mean, yourselves included, and that's, I don't know if Zach has anything else.
I don't think it's gonna make it any, I mean, it saves
Okay.
us time and
You know, and I guess that,
Well,
I'm
like
glad you
that.
said that, because
Yeah.
when I think about what does county government do for the tax, I use Beacon all the time.
Most people do
Yeah, we do.
internally.
All
and
the time.
Yeah,
So anything we could do that actually provides a service to the taxpayer, makes it better,
We use it all the time.
yeah.
Everything you get out of there is based off Zach and I's work.
So-
And there's,
with road center lines, addresses, things like that, the address layer, that's updated, once every couple of months maybe. When she sends me over the update and I get it on the machine and off of there, so with this, every time she makes a change, it's instant.
Yeah.
so what do you want?
I think that I'd entertain a motion to support the idea of moving forward with the server upgrade for GIS. And then,
There's other costs involved in that too that you mentioned, like the $7,000 as far as the.
Yeah, that's why I'd like to see it all
Kind of
together.
see it all
Yeah,
laid out as to what
that
you're
is
talking about.
that's a yearly, so we currently pay maintenance fees. We're just paying, I'm guessing around 2,500 right now. So you'd see a little bit of an increase on that shift. A lot of that's the server. But
So
yes.
that would have to be in yearly budgets.
But that's gonna lighten both your guys' loads too, right? As far as,
It's gonna help with server overhead, and it's gonna help for people, you get calls, people going, well, what's this, at least on my end, where's this address? It's like, well, we've assigned it, but you're gonna have to wait until it shows up on Beacon.
let's leave it like this. Let's not, sometimes we do a consensus vote and we give the person the authorization to go ahead and spend the money and we'll catch up with the paperwork. I'm not saying that. Let's say we like the idea, we wanna know more, we're gonna look at the maybe more detailed accounting next month, but at the same time, we will have an additional appropriation number that when we vote on, the money's there and you could run with it after the June meeting. Does that feel acceptable to everybody?
Yeah.
So that, I want you to have the assurances you're not doing the work for nothing. I mean, we're,
I
okay.
greatly appreciated. This was kind of a surprise. I know you'd mentioned maybe maybe with some of the money coming in, and we look at software updates that help serve people digitally, you know, that this might be one area that could,
I think this is
Could
something
apply
that would,
that
that would,
money.
that would impact and apply to a lot of taxpayers immediately, so. Thank you for that update.
no problem, and
We'll-
I'll get
we'll
a single
revisit
sheet
in June.
typed up for June,
Yep.
and, bring it back then.
Okay.
So do you still want a motion for that?
No, I don't think we need a motion. We'll deal with, we've given them the, kind of the go-ahead to go ahead and keep putting the information together. We'll do the vote then in June. Okay. Any other department heads? All right. One item here that I got a note, and you had in your pack, you had an email that was in your packet, and it was from Heidi Turner at the Kirkland Library, that we have an appointment to the Kirkland Library, I guess the board. It's Emily Bunshow, and that appointment ends in June. And I'd asked Britt if we had taken care of that in our January appointments, and I don't think that we did. I think we only did the ones that expired at the end of the year. So I did reach out to John. John had made a statement at the time that we did those appointments back in June, that he would feel comfortable, that, or would like us to see, at least in person one time, somebody that the council is going to appoint, because they are in fact representing us. And if someone comes to him, as he said to me, if someone comes to me and says, why on earth did you appoint that person? We'd like to at least be able to say that we met him and we talked to him, we had a chance to question him. So rather than just kind of informally reappointing this person now, John has asked if we could have Emily come in June, prior to her appointment expiring at the end of June, and at least get a chance to meet her and any questions you might have, and then we'll do that appointment.
She's on there right now.
Yes, it's just a reappointment.
Can't go wrong with it. It's good.
She's on there right now.
Top shelf.
Yeah. And so I don't think, I mean, I'm not anticipating any problem, but it does seem to be good practice. Yeah. Does anybody know Emily on the council? And I think that was John's point, you know, that we have an appointment representing us that none of us had met, so it was just kind of filling in a gap. So with that, I don't have any other business, if no one else has any business to come before the council. Seeing and hearing none, we'll declare the meeting adjourned.